I know it's not technically the new year anymore, but for those of you that missed out on our last news video, I'll say it once more. Happy New Year, everyone. Hopefully you guys have all had an amazing first 2 weeks of 2021, and I genuinely wish you all an amazing year where you accomplish everything that you've set out to achieve. We do have quite a bit of news to talk about today, but before we jump in, I do want to let you guys know that we are giving away a copy of any MMO you want completely free. Final Fantasy XIV, Shadowbringers, World of Warcraft, Shadowlands, ESO, BDO, Destiny 2's expansions, you get to choose. All you need to do is be subscribed to this channel. Yes, I only accept a winner if they are actively subscribed, and I can see if you are. So make sure to, if you're not already, and then leave a comment stating why you'd like to play the game of your choice in as much or little detail as you want. That's it. The winner will be announced in the next weekly bite of MMORPG news video. Montel Weisinger is actually the winner of our last copy. You can claim this by messaging me on Discord or on Twitter. Also, we are going to be streaming over on Twitch in just a few hours, 3 p.m. EST, if you want to go ahead and join us for an epic Guild Wars 2 stream. We would love to have you over at twitch.tv/MMOBite. Now, let's go ahead and jump right in. The final patch for Shadowbringers is fast approaching us, and you know what that means, don't you? Yeah, the announcement and subsequent release of the next expansion. Nobody currently knows what the next expansion will be titled, let alone what it'll feature in terms of story, setting, or new potential classes. But Yoshi P did reveal a little tidbit earlier this month in the form of a quote. "Our progeny may never know, wherefore we look unto the sky, nor why we dig for truths below. We bear their scorn or watch them die." There has been a ton of speculation all over Reddit and the official forums trying to decipher what that ultimately means, but we'll just need to wait and see. If you haven't played Albion Online yet, then this might be the ideal time to. According to the dev studio, the game has seen an increase in active player population numbers all year, averaging at over 125,000 daily active players, in addition to their substantial number of updates pushed out over the same time period. Albion Online has turned into something truly remarkable and packed with life, and 2020 was only the beginning. 2021 holds even more for the game, including the, as much as we as PC MMO players hate to see it, mobile adaptation of the title. Well, okay, adaptation is a strong, very descriptive word. It's going to be cross-platform compatible, much like RuneScape did, which admittedly might not be a bad alternative, as so long as it's a PC game with mobile functionality and not a mobile game specifically, I feel as though we're in a safe spot with regards to the game. Wow, 20 years? RuneScape has been around for 20 years now? Man, does that make me feel old. Jagex, the studio behind the popular MMO, announced that as part of its 20th anniversary, they plan on holding events over the course of the entire year. Yeah, a year-long anniversary for hitting 20 years old. There is a variety of events planned for players that are wanting to participate, some that may have been mentioned already, and some planned for much further down in the future. So if you've been holding off playing for whatever reason, then this might be what you're looking for to either jump back in or to try it out for the first time. This applies to both RuneScape and old school RuneScape. Wow, okay, how many of you guys ever thought that we would have a segment dedicated to Elsword? Yeah, neither did I, but here we are in January 2021 talking about a brand new update for the game and the introduction of an entirely new character, Noah. This is the first character to be introduced in over 2 years, and with the new character comes the surplus of events to participate in. I haven't played Elsword in over 4 years or so myself, but considering this was on my radar as a game that I wanted to jump back into this year, this might be motivation to do so. For those of you awaiting the new Ilion MMO with bated breath, and for those of you that are simultaneously interested in the PvP aspect of the game, you'll be glad to know that after recently launching within South Korea, Ilion has introduced a brand new 300-player faction war system. This is the very system that we saw in the trailers for Ascent Infinite Realm that utilized large siege weapons and other forms of mechanical warfare. However, these faction wars are limited to weekends, so if they're not of interest to you, you know when not to be available. Ilion is confirmed to be releasing later this year in 2021 as a buy-to-play MMORPG globally for players wanting to try the game out. I am a huge fan of Soul Worker. It's an anime MMO that I have found I've spent more time in than almost any other, and that's because I enjoy the combat, I enjoy the character customization, and the aesthetic look and feel of the game. So when they announced multiple Soul Worker mobile ports, all of which turned out to be absolute garbage, both Mrs. Sticks and I covered them on our mobile channel, so trust me, I know. But suffice it to say, I was severely disappointed. That is, until I heard about the new Soul Worker Academia, or Academy, I'm not sure which the English translation is going with, which admittedly looks to be its very own game with its own unique identity, something that its mobile predecessors failed to establish. With this in mind, while little is known about the game other than it's a sequel to the PC incarnation of the game with a different setting and different mechanics, I'm still interested to see where this ultimately ends up going. I have a much more detailed look coming for Crimson Desert next week, but I thought now would be the perfect time to elaborate just a little bit on what I plan on covering, and that is pertaining to whether or not Crimson Desert is going to be an MMO. According to Pearl Abyss, Crimson Desert is not a traditional MMORPG, but rather an open-world action-adventure game based on a narrative-focused single-player campaign. There is also a multiplayer mode, and players will find that the single-player and the multiplayer experiences are both connected. So while yes, they officially came out and they said what we've all been speculating for a while now, and that is that Crimson Desert is not an MMORPG. They did go on to reiterate that the game is not a traditional MMORPG, but will instead feature a game that has a very story-driven focus, with the option of players playing either together with groups of people or alone. So this might be closer to something like Borderlands or Warframe or Soul Worker or even Genshin Impact. For those of you anticipating the upcoming Gran Saga cross-platform MMORPG, you'll be glad to learn that it's actually launching in South Korea on January 26th and will be playable easily enough outside of the country. An English release is on its way, but at least currently there's no officially confirmed release date for neither North America nor Europe, but it is likely to be sometime later this year, maybe the beginning of 2022 at the latest. But then at the same time, if this does in fact launch in 2022 and Blue Protocol is launching in 2022, it's kind of obvious what you should be playing, right? Earlier this month, the devs behind the upcoming Crowfall Mmo did a live stream where they showcased a little of what players can expect from the game and went into quite a bit more detail. They discussed topics like their current attribute system and how they want to overhaul it, turning it from the unique system they had in place from the beginning of the game and making it much more standardized and normalized. Then there's a new progression system, lobby interface, and honestly, it is an hour-long stream and there is a ton of info, but it's looking less and less unique and more generic, unfortunately for the game. Blade and Soul has been available over in the West now for 5 years. 5 entire years. And while NCSoft have essentially driven that game into its own grave, with terrible update after terrible update, there were still enough active players to warrant new content and events, and this is one such time. The anniversary event started earlier this week and features a ton of goodies up for grabs. Not only can you win your very own PC for participating, but there are outfits to obtain in-game, free premium memberships, daily and weekly challenges, and yeah, it is a party. If you're still playing, then you know it's already begun, but for those of you that don't, here you go. I guess I gotta do a dedicated video on this one eventually, as it is an interesting looking new upcoming MMORPG. Yes, you might look at it and at first glance instantly write it off, but let's be real here. I love games that look like this, and knowing that this is an MMO with a bunch of social features like player housing, farming, questing, and even providing the ability to grow both wealth and influence over the land is an interesting trip for sure. Most noteworthy is the fact that this game is not a Kickstarter funded MMO. Rather, it's already on Steam and has a release date scheduled for 2021. The developer confirmed that they have all the funds they need to hire a team and begin working on it full time, overhauling not only the graphics, but also the animations and story. I feel like this is more of an anniversary video than anything else, right? DC Universe Online is yet another MMO celebrating an anniversary this month, turning 10 years old. Quite the feat for an MMO in this day and age. DC Universe Online in specific, however, is celebrating its 10th year being online different, as we get a brand new event raid that has us going up against the Kraken in an attempt to thwart the Anti-Monitor. Yeah, the very same Anti-Monitor that was featured in the final season of Arrow that Oliver went up against in a huge DBZ-worthy fight. There'll be plenty of rewards for players that want to participate in the event, and might actually be reason enough for me to jump on in so I can see all of this take place in person. Well, I mean, you know, like in person virtually. I admittedly never played Everjane. I was asked to on multiple occasions. I was reached out to cover the game, but I just couldn't really bring myself to. It just looked so so blah to me. And thus I kept delaying it, writing it off as something that I would do eventually. Turns out that will no longer be possible as the game is now shut down, never having even left its beta test phase. This is due to the studio behind the game making, well, let's put it this way. They required, in their words, $500 to $600 monthly to cover the server costs and licensing fees, but they'd only raised 10% of our goal according to them. And if you can't raise the few $100s to keep the game online, yeah, it's probably best you close it down in all honesty. Anyone that enjoyed the role-playing MMO will probably miss it, but considering the active player base numbered in these single digits, it's unlikely. RaiderZ is an kinda upcoming, older, once shut down already MMORPG that has been entirely overhauled by Masangsoft, a developer that takes dead MMOs and milks them for a ton of money before letting them die all over again. As you can tell, I'm very optimistic for this game's future. RaiderZ is their newest venture, however this time they've taken the time to actively overhaul quite a significant amount of the game, removing features that made it unique and turning it into much more of a generic traditional MMO, much to the dismay of the player base. Regardless, they released a brand new trailer for the game showing several of the beginner areas completely overhauled, and I'll admit they do look a little bit better, but that is not what players wanted. They wanted RaiderZ back, not an entirely different vision for the game that they loved. After Blue Protocol's first closed beta test, they went ahead and held a questionnaire where they asked players to leave feedback on what they want added into the game going into the future. Things like fishing, player housing, mini games, more freedom over character customization, new classes, new imagines, guilds, PvP, varied quests, more dungeons, more raids, and additional options were included. Enough so where we can speculate exactly what Bandai Namco plan on adding into the game. We've already seen them hard at work on new customization options, including outfits and sliders. We've seen them announce that they're working towards creating new classes for players to choose when the game eventually launches. They're no doubt working through a list of most requested to least requested, so it's interesting to see what players generally felt was the most important to them. Either way, this might end up being a lot larger than I'd originally anticipated it being. And that is it. That is all of the MMO related news that has been brought to my attention over the course of the last 2 weeks. If you think there's anything that I missed, and you can go ahead and leave a link to the article down in the comment section below. You can message me via Discord or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or really anywhere you can find me. Make sure you include a link to the article in question, and if applicable, I will go ahead and include that in the next weekly bite of MMORPG news video. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.